So what is the role of particle size in slip flow?
Yeah, very good question. So, as I said earlier, you don't see it with the microscale particles people traditionally use in HPLC. And we published a paper in ACS Nano I guess the year before last now, showing that slip flow obeys fluid dynamics theory, where the smaller the channel, the greater the slip flow enhancement. And so smaller particles, larger slip flow enhancement. So for example, 1 micrometer particles, less than a factor of 2, just barely an enhancement. That's 1 micrometer non-porous. If they were porous, you would actually get less of an enhancement, because for a porous particle, part of your surface has mobile phase in it. So you just don't see slip flow enhancement with porous particles. 1 micrometer non-porous, less than a factor of 2. Half micrometer, factor of 5. So this is for a reverse phase material, reverse phase bonded phase. 120 nanometer particles. We've actually reproducibly packed capillaries with 120 nanometer particles. We get a factor of 20 slip flow enhancement. And so it's conceivable that someday these could be used for small molecule separations with really tiny particles. The heterogeneity of packing disappears when you use these uniformly sized particles, and so you would get an enhancement in the efficiency, assuming that the instrument doesn't wipe it all out.
So how can or should the concept of slip flow affect the development of HPLC particles?
Yeah, I think that columns and instruments have always been in kind of an dynamic equilibrium. So as columns improve, instruments improve, and as instruments improve, maybe columns can improve. I think it's more columns driving instruments probably. And instruments are pretty good right now. I think instruments, for protein separations anyway, instruments, in my experience with looking at really good commercial columns, the best instruments exceed columns right now. And, but it's not known how much the column hardware itself contributes. You pack these things into stainless steel. Normally, stainless steel isn't something you think of as being compatible with proteins. In fact, the reason why municipal water supplies end up getting corroded is because proteins adhere to the surface from bacteria, and then bacteria actually damage the materials in the water supplies. And so stainless steel is believed not to be a very good material for protein separations. So people use things like titanium. We're using a detector right now that is made of titanium, because we find that the commercial detector is too sticky for monoclonal antibodies, because they go through it at room temperature. They're at 80 degrees inside the column, but then they come out of the column and go down to room temperature. And so it could be that different materials for columns wind up being really important. We don't know how much of a factor that is yet.
And so what about the instrumentation? Should this concept inform the development of instrumentation as well?
Yeah, I would think so. So higher and higher pressure pumps, and I know companies are working on that. Every few years the pump pressures go up, and they'll continue to go up.